Oh, so funny. It's great. On my number 10, I have the scared cat of Blofeld in You Only Live Twice. And when you look at that scene closely, when Bond is speaking to Blofeld and some explosion goes off somewhere, the cat is clearly trying to get away from Blofeld, so his own cat is afraid of him. I think that is really a tiny, tiny, funny moment if you know what it is and if you see it. Yeah. Q meets Bond for the first time in Skyfall, the new Q, a younger Q, and I think it was brilliantly written how Bond jokes about the youth of Q, and he's so in disbelief that this is the new Q. And I thought Ben Whishaw had some great lines in that. They are just hilarious. When he speaks about his first cup of Earl Grey and the damage he can do, that is just fantastic. Well done.
Age is no guarantee of efficiency.
And youth is no guarantee of innovation.
I'll hazard I can do more damage on my laptop sitting in my pajamas before my first cup of Earl Grey than you can do in a year in the field.
Oh, so why do you need me?
This is one of my all-time favorites. Roger Moore's Bond in a gorilla suit looking at his watch. Just like that. Hairy arm coming up and just doing that with a little bit of head movement. This is actually a move that I do in real life. So I kid you not. Sometimes when things are taking too long and I want to relay to the person I'm with that this is taking too long, I do that. I do exactly the same move. Most of the people get it. Some people don't get it, but most people really do. It makes me laugh every time. It's just many people find it silly, but well, I laugh about it, so it's great. M rolling his eyes at Bond, that's a neat little moment, yeah, in Diamonds Are Forever, where Bond makes a remark and M says, "We do function in your absence, Commander," and he rolls his eyes.
Do we know who his contacts are?
We do function in your absence, Commander.
I love it. It's funny. Diamonds Are Forever being funny in general. There are a lot of these tiny little scenes, but I thought that one was particularly funny because Bernard Lee's M usually is very stern and very, very serious. But in that moment, he wasn't. Top 6, the enzyme shake in Spectre. Yeah.
Here you are, sir. One prolific digestive enzyme shake.
Do me a favor, will you? Throw that down the toilet. Cut out the middleman.
A lot of people laughed about that in the cinema, I remember, and Bond is completely unimpressed by that, because that is not his usual drink, and he says, "Why don't you do me a favor, just cut out the middleman," and he pushes that back, and again, it's a tiny scene, but it gets some laughs. Yeah.
With the compliments.
Foo yuck. It gets even better. It gets better when you get to the top 1. Top 5 is Foo yuck. Yeah, I love that. Foo yuck. That's really great. And Roger Moore, I mean, most of these picks are probably from Roger Moore's films in a lot of rankings by other people. But this scene in The Man with the Golden Gun with a Moët sparkling wine bottle clearly dressed up as a cheap Thai champagne with the label just glued over. I mean, you can see the original label beneath it, and Roger Moore just normally he's very bubbly and sparkly when a lot of facial expressions when he does his humorous bits, but in that scene he quite seriously says "Foo yuck." This is just in the German translation and in the English original it is brilliant comedy gold. Yeah, I love it. On number 4, I have the Goldeneye lab scene where there are a lot of things happening without reason. So there is this man in the phone booth. This cushion explodes. And a couple of seconds later, there is this man, you can clearly see him pressing a button. And he's just propelled through the air, and nobody says anything about it. Q doesn't say anything about it. Bond doesn't mention it. They just look at it, and you have no idea what the hell is going on there. And it's just funny. And of course, on top of that, you have Bond touching Q's sandwich, and he says, "That's my lunch."
Don't touch that. It's my lunch.
It's a nice little scene, yeah. Yeah.
Can you play any other tune?
Top three, yeah. You can think about it what you want, but I like the scenes of Bond, played by Roger Moore, and Anya Amasova, played by Barbara Buck, in the van in the desert when she's trying to get away from Jaws, and she's at the wheel, and Bond is making jokes about her driving skills.
Let's try reverse. That's backwards.
I think that scene is ridiculously funny, and it lives from Roger Moore's facial expressions. There's the eyebrows, there's the smile. Everything fits in the right place. And of course it comes across as a bit silly, but it is a funny moment in Bond history, I have to admit that. Yeah, absolutely.
Women drivers.
Quiet.
Can I take several? Because number 2 is Live and Let Die. Basically every scene with Sheriff Pepper in it. Again, a lot of people think it's silly and very stereotypical, which it is, but I have a lot of joy watching the scenes with Sheriff Pepper in it, because everything that can go wrong for this poor man goes wrong. So his car is destroyed, and then he tries to overtake this oyster man.
Did you ever think of getting a driver's license, boy?
And there is a big accident with all the police cars, and he just drops out.
Are you sure that was your brother-in-law, Sheriff?
It's something I laugh about every time. And they brought Pepper back in The Man with the Golden Gun. The scenes weren't that funny there, but Live and Let Die definitely gets a lot of laughs out of me. Yeah. Have I mentioned before that this is really difficult, ranking things? Yeah. Okay, but on my top 1 is actually a little scene from Skyfall, and it's the villain, Silva, talking to Bond. And what seems to be a very tense scene turns into a little comical display and a comical exchange between the two, because Silva has this gay vibe that comes across from the screen.
What's the regulation to cover this? Well, first time for everything. Yes.
What makes you think this is my first time?
Oh, Mr. Bond.
I remember the people in the audience in the cinema when I saw it for the first time. There was a moment of silence. There was a little pause after that line, and then they laughed. So for your brain, it takes a moment to process it, although you have already gotten that gay vibe. But it's a crowd pleaser, depending on the crowd, obviously. But it's a sentence that works really well, because the scene is not overly tense and not overly comical. So it's not bordering silly, but I think it is well written. Yeah, really. And I like that scene. And everybody laughs at that scene. Everybody. Whenever you rewatch the film, laughs are always on that line. So that's my top 1. Yeah, absolutely.